Prices rose during the French Revolution and American Civil War, but hyperinflation is mostly a modern phenomenon. The following ranking was created by economists Steve Hanke and Nicholas Cruz. So here we go. Let's see which countries produced the 5 worst cases of hyperinflation in the last 100 years. Number 5. Greece. This is Greece, the country that gave us democracy, philosophers, and probably the world's earliest currency unit, the drachma. It is also the country that experienced the 5th worst case of hyperinflation in history. The worst month was October 1944, when the inflation rate was 13,800%. The New York Times reported that month that $1 was worth 300 million drachmas in the port of Patras. To understand how the situation got that bad, it is important to go back 4 years. The country was
So I just got back from a camping trip where I was without internet for several days. It gave me the opportunity to make really cool Nerf videos and play around with some of the AI cameras that I have, but I missed a lot of stuff while I was gone, so I want to make a news breakdown and show you all of the cool stuff that I've come across in the AI world over the last few days. Let's dig in. So some of the most exciting research that's come out recently is this paper called Scaling Transformers to 1 Million Tokens and Beyond with RMT. When papers like these come out, I like to use this tool called pdfgpt.io now to ask questions of the paper and to help better understand what the paper's actually talking about, because they like to use big words and sometimes I struggle with those big words. So this is essentially a way to add more memory to tools like ChatGPT, allowing it to remember things from very long sequences of information. It also uses the transformer network, which can divide long sequences into smaller parts and use memory to remember information from previous parts. What this allows us to do is now use up to 2,048,000 tokens. So you know how when you're using ChatGPT or something like that and you try to paste in something that's too long and it says this is way too long for me to process, or it starts to process something and then cuts itself off? That's because it can only use up to 32,000 tokens in the very best version of GPT-4 right now. With this new research, in the near future, we'll be able to use over 2 million tokens. Now, the downside to this is it's going to require a lot more compute power, which means probably a lot more cost to use something like this. Now, to put this into easier to understand terms, 1 token is roughly 0.75 words. So if we bust out our calculator here and we do the math on 2,048,000 tokens times 0.75, so that's 1.5 million words that can be used in a combination of our input text and the text that's output back to us. Now, to put that into context, the entire Harry Potter book series, all of the books combined, are 1,084,170 words. So you theoretically will be able to paste the entire Harry Potter book series into one prompt and ask it questions if you wanted to. Now, this is valuable for things like code. You should be able to paste in things like the entire code for a software product and have it answer questions about that code, because there'll be enough tokens now to process it all. So this is really, really big news. Now, we don't have access to this yet. Again, the largest model we have access to allows for up to 32,000 tokens, which is about 24,000 words combined input and output. So it's a pretty big leap once this technology actually gets implemented into some of these chat systems. Now, April 25th, the day I'm actually recording this video, was a huge day in the AI world. It was just news after news after news. It was one of those days where it just seemed like something huge just came one after the other, starting with Hugging Chat. Now, if you've watched my previous videos, you've seen me talk a lot about Hugging Face, where people can build and experiment and upload their machine learning models and let other people play with them. It's a really, really cool community-driven machine learning platform. Today, they just released their own chat platform based on Open Assistant's latest model. Now, if you're not familiar with Open Assistant, check out this video over here called a ChatGPT alternative that's free and open source, We talk all about Open Assistant and why it's interesting and why you should care about it. But by the end of the video, we kind of come to the conclusion that it's not quite there yet. You're not going to use it instead of ChatGPT or probably even something like Bard yet, because it's still very, very early days. But that model is now available over on Hugging Face at Hugging Chat. You can find it over at huggingface.co/chat. It's completely free to use and it's also open source. But again, it's not quite that great yet. When I said who won the most recent World Series, it said the New York Yankees. How do you think they can improve next season? That was the entire response. And the New York Yankees weren't even in the World Series this most recent year. The other thing that I find interesting is it gave the title over here, the Boston Red Sox. What? Now, also on April 25th, OpenAI put out an article about new ways to manage your data in ChatGPT, basically telling us that ChatGPT users can now turn off chat history, allowing you to choose which conversations can be used to train our models. This is obviously an effort for them to overcome privacy concerns that people have had about ChatGPT and what information it's actually saving on you. So now you can tell it to no longer save and hold on to information that you enter into the chat if you'd like. Now, a lot of people probably didn't even realize that when you use ChatGPT, any information you were putting into it was being saved and helping better train the model. Now you can essentially opt out of that process if you'd like. Also on April 25th, Replit announced that they raised $97.4 million at a $1.16 billion valuation, and also held a mini live event called Replit Developer Day. Now, if you're not familiar with Replit, it's somewhat similar to like GitHub or Hugging Face, where people can collaboratively code. And at today's event, they announced that they're releasing their own large language model specifically fine-tuned for coding. It's only 2.7 billion parameters compared to almost every other platform, which is a lot larger, meaning that it's going to take a lot less processing power to use, which means lower costs, but it's actually performing better than most of these other platforms that are available. I was not at the live event. They did a live stream. I was excited to watch the live stream once it was over on YouTube, but they pulled it down, so I haven't been able to watch it yet. I'm having to make do with some of the screenshots that they put out. But long story short, Replit is working on their own large language model from all of the data inside of the Replit database to help coders code. Also on April 25th, NVIDIA released open source software called Nemo Guardrails. I was actually on a private call the other night with the people at NVIDIA and got a demo of this. And this slide right here was probably the best representation of an explanation of what Nemo Guardrails does. So it's sort of a tool that sits in between your AI chatbot like ChatGPT or Llama or the Stability language model or Open Assistant or whatever language model you're using. It sits between the user and that language model, and it allows you to have a set of rules or guardrails, as they call them. So you can custom tailor a large language model for your business.
Oh, damn it. No.
The like Navy SEAL teams will train on this hierarchy of orders, but when they get into action zones, it does really look more like this based on, are we doing extraction? Well, who's the most trained in extraction? Are we doing translation with a local? Who's the most trained? And that person becomes the leader, and they then give orders in real time. And then they know when to switch back to a hierarchical model, depending on the situation. Often when it's back in base or the mission itself is concluded or whatever's going on, it's more of a special ops sort of structure, which means, I think I heard it said once, and this number's dated. Oh, I like this. Oh, train until it becomes a reflex. The job of everyone above and below is the ideal. If you're learning the level above you, you're always working to better your own opportunities and directly affecting the outcome in a positive manner. Train until it becomes a reflex. Now, in what areas could we train more so that it becomes a reflex? Just pragmatically.
Where could we train more where it would be a reflex? Google Search Console.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What I
Google
can
search.
think of for
Yeah,
myself, I need some
yeah.
training there.
That's just for us. What about you, Jessica? You were brewing for some.
No, I think that I could also benefit from that type of training because I am the one who gets the messages in the inbox. So if I could know how to troubleshoot those and not have to put them in front of either of you, I think that would save everyone time.
Interesting.
I'm always trying to figure out how I can do things and take them off your plates.
Yeah. I like that. Extreme Ownership. We should read that book. That's by that Navy SEAL guy. Extreme Ownership. It might be a little too machismo for our vibe, but it might have good nuggies.
Yeah.
For sure. So we're on this train because I asked the question, what's the guide stone when you don't know what to do? And what's the support structure? Well, per Sean Lyons, in common sense, training is the number one support.
Yeah.
And practice is like in there. But what about when we encounter something that we didn't think about training on? I mean, the latest being kind of these ranking issues when you
Google
don't know
Search
what
Console.
to do. And what's the issues, not ranking issues. And we just came up with a protocol for that this morning. That's fantastic. But when none of that is in place and we don't know what to do, what's at the center of our purpose?
Our cause.
And the cause derives our values. What are our three main core values?
Educate, encourage, and empower.
And I think that those are not alive enough in most businesses, most small.
Yeah.
Why do we exist? And then what are our business values? Because when I'm not sure what to do, I might now make the wrong decision. But if I make the wrong decisions for the right values, I'm at least not going to get in trouble internally. We might have to fix something, but I educated the client, I encouraged the client, I empowered the client, but I also empowered the situation, meaning, I don't know if you guys caught this word track, but when we got on that call this morning, when it's like, oh man, this implementation was not what this particular person in the client's office was said to expect.
Yeah.
And the first thing I said is we could totally do this. But let me ask you a few questions. And hold on, let me make sure I'm not getting. Oh, there we go. So I affirmed and empowered and said, okay, let's empower the situation. Totally be done. Okay, that's literally all the client generally wants to hear on the empowerment end. But let me ask you a few questions, and I'm not really sure what to do in that situation. Like this morning, I wasn't really sure, so we have to go into discovery. So I think this is important that the cause